midnight deadline. The Senate has hours to pass a spending bill before the government shuts down. Building the Trump administration. The president-elect faces more tough decisions, the key cabinet positions he has not yet filled. Adopting Christians in Need, a program to bring help to refugees in Mosul and beyond. And Christmas at the Vatican. Find out what makes this year's nativity scene and Christmas tree ornaments unique on EWTN News Nightly for Friday, December 9th, 2016.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Lauren Ashburn. Senators scramble to pass a spending bill to keep the government from shutting down. Jason Calvey begins our coverage from the Capitol tonight. Jason?
Wyatt, last-minute brinkmanship and an open question all day. Will the government shut down? This afternoon, some senators who have been putting the brakes on the spending bill to keep the government open even abruptly canceled a press conference. Late this afternoon, I spoke with the longest-serving Democrat here in the Senate, Senator Patrick Leahy, and even he didn't know what would happen. The House easily passed the spending bill yesterday, 326 for and 96 against. With the must-pass bill passed, the House members booked it out of Washington. Today, it was the Senate's turn, but Democrats from coal mining states put the brakes on it, raising the alarm over an expiring health insurance program for miners. The Democrats wanted a one-year extension of the miners' health benefits. Instead, the current spending bill only gives the miners a 4-month extension. But Republican Senator John McCain has seen fights like this in his nearly 30 years here.
One of the things that usually happens around here when the weekend rolls around, principle turns to expediency. So we'll see what happens.
So that's your prediction? It's going to go through?
Yes. The years I've been here, I have never known the United States Senate to spend the entire weekend. It may have happened, I just don't recall it. It's the rarest of occasions, sort of like an eclipse.
The Democratic senator leading the fight for the coal miners, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, says even if they lose the fight tonight, he says they'll pick it back up in January. And on Monday, Wyatt, he'll be meeting with President-elect Trump.
Jason, what exactly does the spending bill fund?
Well, it keeps the government open through April. It also has an additional $10 billion going to defense and overseas diplomacy. It also gives $170 million to Flint and other communities that have been devastated by lead-tainted water.
Jason Calvey reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. Jason, thanks very much. Several key healthcare industry groups joined together trying to stop Republicans from repealing Obamacare when Donald Trump takes office. They don't want Congress to repeal the law unless lawmakers simultaneously pass a new bill to replace coverage for the 20 million people who use Obamacare. President-elect Donald Trump returns to the campaign trail in Louisiana to give a Republican candidate a boost ahead of the state's Senate runoff election. Trump visited Baton Rouge today to get out the vote rally for Louisiana Republican candidates. Republican John Kennedy faces off against Democrat Foster Campbell for the seat of retiring Republican Senator David Vitter. Polls show Kennedy with a comfortable lead. The election is Saturday. A federal judge rules the Wisconsin presidential recount must continue, saying it probably won't change anything anyway. President-elect Trump defeated Hillary Clinton by more than 22,000 votes in that state. With the recount 82% complete, Clinton has only gained 61 votes. Kathy McMorris Rogers, a pro-life Republican from the state of Washington, emerges as the leading contender to be the Secretary of the Interior under Donald Trump. She is currently the only Republican woman with a leadership role on Capitol Hill, and the incoming president is said to be interested in finding a place for her within his administration. McMorris Rogers, who was elected to the House in 2004, is the latest name to be floated as the Trump cabinet takes shape.
Speaker Rice. The arrivals at Trump Tower are not slowing down as the president-elect builds his team.
We really enjoyed coming up here, meeting with the president-elect. We had a great meeting to talk about our transition. We're very excited about getting to work and hitting the ground running in 2017.
House Speaker Paul Ryan talking transition at the end of a busy week for Trump, who has picked former wrestling executive Linda McMahon to head the Small Business Administration, Iowa Governor Terry Branstad as ambassador to China, Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt as EPA chief, and fast food executive Andrew Putster to be labor secretary. Now over half of Trump's cabinet is assembled. He still has many more jobs to fill, but one transition expert says that's a record.
From a naming perspective, they've named over a dozen of their top cabinet officials. That's a rate that we have not seen in history. But again, I wouldn't use that as a judge of success. It's really the end game by January 20th.
Perhaps the most hotly debated post is Secretary of State, who is fourth in line to the presidency. Former rival Mitt Romney is still a contender, but new names have been added to the list.
In recent days, he's been meeting with Ambassador John Bolton, Congressman Robacker, and more recently, Rex Tillerson from Exxon, and yesterday, Alan Mulally from Ford. These two men are captains of industry.
Senate confirmations for Trump's nominees can begin 2 weeks ahead of the inauguration, when the newly elected 115th Congress convenes on January 3rd.
Trump continues his thank you tour to salute the states that helped him get to the White House. He says his campaign was able to appeal to a wide range of voters, especially the middle class.
The American middle class has been forgotten. Boy, did they come out and vote, huh? They came out and vote. You know, I think both parties to a certain extent, but especially the other side, they forgot about those people.
Trump touched on a variety of economic issues during his stop in Iowa, including holding China's government accountable for their manipulating their currency. Tonight he will be in Grand Rapids, Michigan, another key state Trump won in November. Donald Trump's campaign spent a lot less than Hillary Clinton's in its final push for the White House. New fundraising reports filed yesterday show the Republicans spent about $94 million in the closing weeks of last month's election. Democrat Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, spent $132 million in the final weeks. Over the course of the primary and general elections, the Trump campaign raised about $340 million, including $66 million from Trump's own pocket. A fiery exchange between the Clinton and Trump campaigns continues to draw interest online. Representatives from both sides squared off during an event last week at Harvard University.
I would rather lose than win the way you guys did.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes. Yes.
That's very clear today. No, you wouldn't, respectfully. Rather, I'm sorry,
So,
how exactly did we win? No, go for it, Jen. How exactly did we win? I'd like to know, because I've sacrificed the last 4 months of my life to do it. Excuse me. And we did it. And we did it by looking at the schedule and looking at, yes, the electoral map of 270, because that's how you win the presidency.
Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway says Hillary Clinton just didn't connect with people. Now to other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. The confession of a man who's on trial in the killing of 9 black parishioners at a South Carolina church is now public. The FBI captured Dylan Roof's confession on camera and played back the video today in court. When asked what he was doing on the night in question, Roof hesitated for 20 seconds. Then he said he did it. He added he chose the church because it's the oldest black church in the South. If Roof is found guilty, he could be put to death. American mourns the death of a former astronaut and U.S. Senator who was a hero to many. John Glenn died yesterday at the age of 95. He had been hospitalized more than a week in Ohio, but the cause of his death has not been released. In 1959, Glenn, along with 6 other astronauts, were selected as the first Americans to send into space. Tributes and condolences have poured in since the news of his death.
This small-town boy from New Concord, Ohio, came a long way, lived a full life, one that touched many, and that won't soon be forgotten.
After retiring from NASA, Glenn continued to serve his country as a U.S. Senator, representing Ohio on Capitol Hill for 24 years. Ohio Governor John Kasich must decide whether to sign 2 different pro-life bills approved by state lawmakers this week. The so-called heartbeat bill would ban abortions as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy once the baby's heartbeat is detected. A second bill bans abortion after 20 weeks. Kasich is pro-life, but he's concerned courts will strike down the heartbeat bill like they did in Arkansas and North Dakota. Mike Ganidakis, president of Ohio Right to Life, joins us now via Skype from Columbus. Mike, your group doesn't support the heartbeat bill. Seems like a pro-life bill. Why don't you support this one in particular?
Well, let's be clear. We support the philosophy of the heartbeat bill because, of course, every baby with a beating heart should be protected. As a matter of fact, every baby at the moment of conception should be supported. But what we've said at Ohio Right to life is we be strategic in what laws we pass in all 50 states, because our federal court system is very vicious to us. And in fact, the United States Supreme Court, currently as it exists, is 5-3 against us. 5 pro-abortion justices, 3 pro-life justices. When President-elect Trump takes office, we'll be able to appoint one, since Justice Scalia has passed away. But then we're still losing 5-4. So what we say is we have to be careful, because why would we invite a hostile court to make a decision that could set us back 40, 50 years? So while we support the idea of a heartbeat bill, we think every baby, not just at heartbeat, but from conception, should be protected. We have to engage in the incremental approach, one step at a time.
There's another bill that you do support. It's called the 20-week abortion ban. Do you think that bill will withstand challenges in the courts?
We do, and here's why. 12 other states have passed the fetal pain 20-week ban. States like Wisconsin, West Virginia, Texas, South Carolina, they're on the books. Nebraska's bill's been on the books since 2010. They have not been challenged by the courts. But with Ohio, and Lord willing, the governor signs it, Governor Kasich signs it today or this weekend, we'll be the 13th state in the nation, which then we'll have 13 states that have a conflicts of interest. Now, the court has ruled in past cases, while upholding Roe, they've always said that they're willing to look at the viability line, because that's the standard. No restrictions pre-viability. And what we're saying is that science now proves that babies born at 20 weeks, 21 weeks, 22 are living lives, are born premature, but are growing up happy and healthy. So it's time to get rid of this archaic line in the sand that a 1973 court and Roe v. Wade decided, and we need to move the needle. And then after that, once we get 20 weeks established, we can go continue to chip away at this issue.
How in general does your group work to pass pro-life legislation in Ohio? It seems to be working. There's a lot of pro-lifers there in your state.
You know, we're very blessed in the Buckeye State here. In the past 6 years under Governor John Kasich's leadership, we've passed 17 pro-life laws. We passed a late-term ban. We've defunded Planned Parenthood twice in Ohio. We found additional money for pregnancy centers. And how we do this is elections have consequences. If we don't have good pro-life men and women in the General Assembly, we can't introduce and pass laws. We have to have a good pro-life governor as well, and we do. But it takes a village. We have 88 counties in Ohio, so pro-lifers in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Toledo, Dayton. We come together and we serve the Lord in all we do, but we find common sense approaches to our issue, whether it's adoption reform, 20-week abortion for women to ensure that they get health care, as opposed to going to Planned Parenthood. We look at all of this holistic approach, and we've been very blessed to have great success in Ohio.
And I know, like you say, you guys are appealing to people across the board of all ages, and I know that's something that people across the nation are looking to you guys as an example as well. Mike Ganidakis, president of Ohio Right to Life, thanks so much for talking with us.
God bless. Thank you.
Ohio is not the only state where pro-life legislation is making headway. 20-week bans on abortion are on the books in 17 states, including South Dakota, whose governor signed it into law in March, and South Carolina, whose governor signed it in June. Hillary Clinton calls the rise of fake news an epidemic during a speech on Capitol Hill.
It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk.
Fake news rose to prominence around the 2016 election, but has been around for many years on websites like The Onion. But not everyone agrees it's the root of the problem.
The problem is that real media, actual establishment, traditional media, got so many stories wrong that fake news has proliferated because it's hard to tell the difference between real news and fake news.
Concha hopes Facebook does something fast to stop the spread of fake news. He suggests labeling certain stories as false.
Coming up, helping Christians in the Middle East, how you can adopt a Christian from Mosul, and the Holy Father's challenge for priests, the kind of person Pope Francis wants them to be.
During his morning homily, Pope Francis asked priests to be mediators of God's love and not men who think of their own interests and are tempted by worldliness. The Holy Father based his remarks on today's readings. Thousands celebrates in the streets of South Korea today after lawmakers vote to impeach President Park Geun-hye. Her powers are now suspended, and power will be handed over to the Prime Minister. The decision follows several weeks of mass protests demanding the president resign after she was named as a suspect in a corruption probe. The country's constitutional court will now rule on whether she must permanently step down. More than 1,000 Russian athletes across 30 sports benefited from state-sponsored doping. That, according to a new report commissioned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. It claims there was a systematic cover-up across summer and winter sports from 2011 to 2015. Russian officials are blasting the report, saying it is out of date and doesn't take internal reforms into account. Defense Secretary Ash Carter says the United States will stick with Afghanistan for years to come. Carter appeared with the Afghan president during his final visit to the country as the head of the Pentagon. He says the U.S. cannot afford to give up on Afghanistan after more than 15 years of involvement. The U.S. still has about 10,000 troops in the country to train and advise security forces fighting the Taliban. Iraqi troops gain intelligence information from residents of Mosul as they work to liberate the country's second-largest city from ISIS control. Neighbors are reporting people who they suspect of secretly collaborating with extremists. The fighting is also forcing thousands of people to flee the city and seek safety in refuge camps. Many lack basic necessities like food and medicine. Catholics can help the refugees survive the winter. A Vatican-affiliated news agency, Asia News, says Iraqis need everything from kerosene for fires to warm clothes and blankets. Their Christmas campaign is called Adopt a Christian for Mosul. For more, we go to Rome, where Father Bernardo Cervalera, editor-in-chief of Asia News, is standing by to tell us more. Father, the Iraqi army's offensive against the Islamic State in Mosul is creating new waves of refugees. How many people are in need of urgent help?
The people who are who are fleeing from Mosul are around 1.5 million. But there are also more than 500,000 people staying in Kurdistan who have fled from Mosul 2 years ago. And both these groups are in very dire straits. Means that the UN is trying to help these people who are coming out from Mosul and the Nineveh plain. But there are also these 500,000 who are not having any food, any help for clothes, any help for living day by day in this situation in Kurdistan.
It's just unbelievable to think about so many hundreds of thousands of people that are still in need of help. How can a person or even a parish adopt, as you say, someone in need from Mosul?
But we are collecting money from Italy, from Latin America, from China even, and from Vietnam, and they send to Asia News this money. And every month we send this money to the bishops and to the parish churches in Kurdistan, and they, day by day, they help these people with food, very simple food, with winter clothes, because now in Kurdistan is very, very cold because it's a mountain place. And they give kerosene for the heating in tents or in containers or in small houses. And also they give money to pay, if you think, the school bus for the children every day, because they live on the mountains, and from the mountains they have to go in Dohuk or Erbil to join in the school.
And Father, really quickly, I'm out of time here, but tell me the name of where the website or where people can go if they want to donate.
www.asianews.it. Adopt a Christian from Mosul.
Very good. Father Bernardo Cervalera, editor-in-chief of Asia News, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thanks to you.
Up next, small business owners worry they'll be punished if they refuse to provide services for same-sex weddings, where they're challenging state law. And Christmas time at the Vatican, a look at some of the decorations around St. Peter's Basilica. On this December 9th, we celebrate the feast of St. Juan Diego. Our Lady appeared to the indigenous peasant 4 times in 1531. That sparked a deep devotion to the Blessed Mother all over Mexico and Latin America. St. Juan Diego is the patron of indigenous people. A husband and wife have filed suit against Minnesota state officials challenging the state's Human Rights Act. Caleb Dalton, co-counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom, joins us now. Caleb, your group is representing this case, which centers around same-sex marriages and whether the couple's production company would have to participate in those weddings if their production films feature traditional marriages. What basically is at stake here?
What's at stake here is the right of every American to be able to decide what stories they tell or not. For example, if the Larsons can be forced to tell the story of same-sex marriage, then a pro-life photographer could be forced to participate to film a Planned Parenthood event, or maybe a Planned Parenthood employee or somebody who's opposed to pro-life issues could be forced to film the March for Life. Freedom goes both ways. Tolerance is a two-way street, and this is an issue where filmmakers shouldn't be threatened with jail if they don't abide by the government's view of what marriage is.
The Larsons here are filing a suit against Minnesota. They're not being sued themselves, and we've covered a number of cases with you guys with ADF. How unusual is this?
It's not unusual at all. Challenging unjust laws is a hallmark of civil rights history. And civil rights have advanced throughout our history really by challenging laws and not waiting to be thrown in jail before you have the ability to vindicate your First Amendment rights.
Okay, so again, they're challenging Minnesota's Human Rights Act. What exactly does that state entail?
Well, the Human Rights Act here, as applied to Carl and Angel, would require them to film and produce same-sex wedding ceremonies. They want to use their talents to tell the God-given beauty of marriage between a man and a woman, especially in today's society where we see the decline of marriage. But the state law says if they do that, they also have to tell stories that violate their faith.
Okay, so what happens if they don't do it, if they don't participate in so-called same-sex weddings? What could happen to them?
If they violate the law, they're subject to crippling fines, triple damages, over $25,000 in punitive fines, and it's considered a criminal misdemeanor that could be punished by up to 90 days in jail.
Okay, really quickly here, what do you hope ultimately comes out of this case?
I hope that freedom prevails for all Americans, because this case really isn't just about the Larsons. It's about the freedom of every American to decide what stories they tell, what stories they don't tell, to be able to express their faith and their beliefs without fear of government punishment.
Caleb Dalton with the Alliance Defending Freedom, thank you for coming in and telling us about this case.
Thanks for having us.
The Vatican reveals its Christmas tree and nativity scene with a celebration earlier today.
3, 2, 1, via! Hey!
Children were invited to flip the switch for the Christmas tree lighting. They also had a hand in the decorations. And today's unveiling included the Vatican's nativity scene with elements that connect to the display to modern-day challenges. Mary Shevlin joins us now from Rome. Mary, I can see the Christmas tree over your right-hand shoulder there. It looks beautiful. What are some of the highlights of this year's Christmas decorations?
Well, as you'll see, Wyatt, the beautifully adorned Christmas tree with the white lights. But when you take a closer look, you see these gorgeous ceramic ornaments. And why are they special? Because there's a ceramic therapy workshop that's done through hospitals throughout all Italy with children who are suffering from cancer and receiving treatment for other illnesses. So when you take a good look at that tree, you'll see those gorgeous ornaments. Also, you'll see bits from the cathedral in Norcia, the town that was devastated by the recent earthquake there. We have the spire from the top of that basilica laying right here in the square, as well as some of the rubble from that devastated town, as well as the beautiful figurines, 17 in all, dressed in traditional Maltese outfits, because the manger scene was donated this year by the bishops and the government of Malta. So these images are really something to behold. Everything has a special meaning.
Tell me more about the nativity scene and what makes that unique, and what did the Pope say about it?
Well, it's unique because if you really take a look at, there's a boat in there. Like we mentioned, the figurines dressed in Maltese dress, and we know that fishing is very important on the Maltese islands. But Pope Francis pointed out that the boat also represents the many who have lost their lives coming to Italy across the Mediterranean in hopes of a better life. And he said, so when we look at the boat in the manger scene in St. Peter's Square, let us also think about solidarity, about welcoming, about peace.
Mary Shevlin joining us from Rome. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you, Wyatt.
And we thank you for joining us tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Wyatt Goolsby. We leave you with a colorful look at last night's procession through the streets of Rome celebrating the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Good night and God bless.